everybody? It's Goddess Z, and I'm here with another podcast episode on Holistic and Spiritual AF. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this podcast. If this is your first time following and listening to this podcast, be sure to hit that follow, that subscribe, that like, depending on whatever platform you're listening to, because this podcast is all about integrating that mind, body, spirit integration. I always say if either one of those things are out of balance, then we are out of balance. And that's what we talk about on this podcast. Myself and my guests, we talk about ancestral wisdom, metaphysics, healings, herbal realm, all sorts of amazing things. Anything that will kind of tie into those subjects. So be sure to hit that follow, that subscribe. These podcast episodes drop on the first and the third Friday of every month at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you definitely don't want to miss it. So welcome to the podcast. And of course, if you are coming back, welcome back, fam. I appreciate you so much. I think I told you guys last time that we reached over 1,000 downloads, and that is like really growing fast now. And I appreciate you all for that. We're over 50 episodes now, and including today is going to be episode 53. And the title is Old Wounds, New Story, How to Rewrite Your Subconscious for Healing. Okay, so today I'm sitting down with the Southern Goddess. She is the founder of Inward Journey LLC, a powerhouse hypnotherapist blending hypnotherapy, sound therapy, and Indigenous psychology to help you liberate your mind, body, and soul. Okay, her mission is to help people liberate their mind, body, and soul so that you can experience a more happy, balanced life. So today we're going to be talking about how to reprogram your subconscious for freedom, hypnotherapy versus hypnosis. I got schooled on that. Honoring and connecting with your ancestors, healing after narcissistic abuse, and aligning mind, body, spirit, and soul for a balanced life. Okay. This is for everyone who's ready to stop surviving and start truly thriving in their highest vibration from an Afro-Indigenous perspective. So you definitely don't want to miss this. It was really an honor to sit down with this sis. I've been watching her on her journey now for a while, for about 2 years, and to watch her grow and expand and develop as a spiritual goddess, I really appreciate seeing her. And she had a lot of nuggets and a lot of wisdom. So be sure to check out this entire episode. If you're impatient like me, go ahead and skip over about to 4 minutes or so and jump directly into the podcast episode. If you got some time to stick around just for a little bit while I go over some business. Okay. So the next class is going to be in September. I already have a topic for that. So make sure that you're following me on the website at holisticandspiritualaf.com. Sign up for the newsletter so that you stay tuned to what it is that's happening. I'm always doing something. I do a class every other month. I do meditations. I have books on there, courses that you can download, as well as there's all sorts of things cooking in the oven behind the scenes. There's a store that I'm working on launching, getting products added to it, and that's going to be partnered in conjunction with this. And also talking about having a book club. Okay, so I'm running a couple of polls around to see what type of book club you guys be interested in: fiction, nonfiction, self-development, personal development, or spiritual. Okay, so you can also comment down at the end of this podcast to let me know what your choice would be. So stay tuned to me, basically. All my information will be down in the description, as well as Southern Goddess. I'm going to have her information down there as well. And I have yapped enough before the podcast, so let's go ahead and jump into it,
All right. So thank you so much, Southern Goddess. I really appreciate you taking your time out to share your wisdom and your energy with my audience today. I know they're going to love you. You're doing some amazing work out. I think I met you on TikTok. That's where I first saw you, and I saw you for about a year and a half now. I've been watching your journey, and you're really doing some amazing things. You're working with hypnosis, teaching people how to reprogram their subconscious. You're doing a variety of different things in the mind, body, spirit arena, ancestral veneration. And you also have a story of overcoming narcissistic abuse. So we definitely got to dive into that. But before we do that, just tell my audience and myself, because I'm curious, like, how did the journey begin for you? Like, how did you begin to tap into mind, body, spirit healing?
Okay, well, I'll make it a short version. But my journey started, I want to say, when I actually knew it was starting. I knew something was starting within me around 2018. Okay. But around COVID time, I think a lot of things happened with a lot of people during that time. Something really just kind of kicked in. I was struggling with mental illness as far as just depression and anxiety. I got to a point where my body just was in the fight or flight stage for just too long. Started having panic attacks. I just really was just not myself anymore. And it had gotten to the point where I really wanted to go and check myself in into like a mental institute. But I knew that's not what I really needed. What I actually needed was not really here in Georgia. So the other option was for me to go see a hypnotherapist. My sister helped me find a hypnotherapist. Never heard of hypnotherapy before, but I was in such a desperate state of being at that time to where I just needed to try anything. So I went to visit a hypnotherapist. When I went to visit her, she really went just really, I was able to talk to her. I was able to just tell her what was going on, and she knew immediately what I needed. And so I worked with a hypnotherapist for about 4 months straight. This was right before, COVID, kicked in. I was going to her weekly, once a week. And, she trained me how to really reprogram my subconscious. She started showing me how I was attracting certain things into my life because of the relationships I had with my mother and my father. And from that, getting that understanding, she showed me how to meditate. And through hypnosis, which is kind of another form of meditation, I was able to start to slow my nervous system down. I was able to start learning how to get out of fight or flight. I worked with her, like I said, for about, I think it was like 2 months straight. But like I said, I went for, once a week. And she gave me exercises each time I went to go see her, to just teach me how to get out of that fight or flight. She had to break me down as far as just being able to relax first before she could even break into, the other parts. But from that, I was inspired. I was inspired to, you know, I'll say after I, really kind of start learning the practices, understanding the practices, implementing them into my life. And it took some time. This is unlearning bad behaviors and patterns and things that you think are right. It takes some time. So probably a year after, I had seen her and I really started implementing these practices into my life, I started seeing a change in my body. I started seeing a change in my mind. I started, the way that I ate changed. Everything started changing just because I learned how to start slowing my nervous system down, getting out of that survival mode, you know, learning just those bad patterns that we were programmed to think. We had to be going, had to be doing, overachieving, all of that stuff. It really just started to change me, and from there, after the fact, I started really studying. I started going down all types of rabbit holes when it came to hypnosis and the subconscious and how it works. And then I realized, man, a lot of us women, especially Black women, we are under attack, which a lot of people know that, So I started writing my own curriculum because I started to see where, okay, yes, I learned this, but I see this, for us, and it was all the same things that I started to realize. I went to that same person that taught me. She was offering classes. And so I went to her and I said, you know what? I want to be a hypnotherapist. I really want to learn the practice even more. So I became a certified hypnotherapist, and I started writing my own curriculum. I started hosting, different sessions. I do have a practice called Inward Journey that I eventually started. And, that's where I talk to my patient, not patients, but my clients. And, that's kind of how it started. But it all started just from being tired of my mind. My body and my spirit just was broken. It was completely shattered, and my body couldn't take it anymore. So that's kind of how it started in a nutshell.
I love it. I mean, that's a great way to start because it started with your own shadow work
Yeah.
first. Like you had to experience and feel what it is that your clients will be bringing to you.
Yeah.
And your spirit was tired of the program, and you
Yes.
knew something more, and there was more. And I think it's interesting that you jumped right in the deep end and you went to the hypnotherapist first. But that's great. Our spirit knows what we need once we start, going and moving down the journey. And it's different for different people. But that's why I do this podcast, because there's so many different tools and different
Mhm.
things will resonate with people first. And I love the fact that you talked about how you had several sessions with your hypnotherapist and you
Mhm.
guys were working on different aspects. So it's like it's not just hypnosis, but it's hypnotherapy, like
That's
where
right.
you just like you would go to a therapist every two
Correct.
weeks and all of that stuff. And it's the same thing. And you were, in order to get the maximum benefit, you had to stay consistent and disciplined and to do your at home work. So
Absolutely.
you really said a mouthful right there, because I hear a lot of people talking about come to me for a hypnotherapy session or hypnosis, and hypnotherapy are two different things. It seems
They
like
are.
hypnosis is one time, one and done, but I'm thinking you may open up Pandora's box and now all of a sudden what the hell is all this? Now this leads
Right.
to that and this leads to that. So
Right.
so
Yes.
if you really want to start to, like you talked about, break that program, break that loop, then it will require several sessions. So I'm glad you got a chance to experience it that way. And I'm
Yes.
also glad that you got to see that we as Black women, we have different experiences
Yeah.
and we respond to things differently. We're built different, period, point blank.
Period.
Like,
Yes.
we know, there's certain things that we're going to resonate with that is not the generic, is not going to work for us. So I'm
Correct.
loving that. It seems like the whole thing was like divinely orchestrated. Like you,
It was. It
yeah,
it
because
truly
we needed
was.
someone like you in the space.
Right. And the crazy part is that before COVID, I wasn't even this person. I
Yeah.
had never even heard of hypnotherapy. And that's one of the things too. I really want to break the stigma of when you say that word hypnosis to anyone that looks like us or
Yes.
they've never heard of it. It's not most of the time people think it's something spooky. They think it's something you're going to lose your mind and tell all your secrets. It's nothing like that. A lot of us don't realize that every day we're being programmed, we're being hypnotized by the music we listen to, what we're
Yes.
looking at on the TV. Music and TV are the top two things of how hypnosis is used on you unaware, you're unaware of these things happening, so I really want to break that stigma. And like you said, hypnosis is part of the session. The therapy part is, you want to do that shadow work first, I started looking into indigenous psychology. And the more I started to study that is where I realized this is more of what we need. And it's kind of the same as shadow work to me when I
Hmm.
really start looking at it, because like you said, we have different traumas than most people. And yes, I do recommend, you go see a psychologist or, talk to someone, but we have to get deep. We have to get to the root of our traumas. So that's
I
why I
love
created
that.
Inward Journey. Mhm.
I love it. I'm glad you're out there. And you said you're in Georgia, right?
Correct. I'm in Georgia.
Okay,
Yes.
so are you like Atlanta area?
Yes, I'm.
Okay.
I'm in the Atlanta metro area, McDonough,
Okay.
Georgia, Henry
Okay, I
County.
know where McDonald's at. I lived in Atlanta for 2 years, and then
Okay.
I came back to Florida. So yeah, so
Oh,
definitely I'll
okay.
make
So
sure I
we're
have um your stuff in the description, your contact information and things like that. So are you doing in person or like Zoom sessions right
So
now?
I am going to start doing the Zoom sessions starting
Yes.
now. I typically do in person sessions. I'll host events. I haven't had an
Oh,
event
good.
this year, but when I do host an event, I did several last year and the year before. But when you come there, it's like a 2 hour session. I like to talk to you first, let you know what's happening, let you know what hypnosis is. I like to educate you on that, and tell you the pros and the cons. If if you, because going to see a hypnotherapist, you really need to trust this person. You really need
Yes.
to understand, because they understand the subconscious. And if you go to someone that has, not the best intentions for you, you could be, it could be a bad experience for you. But like I said, I do host events. My goal is to open a physical location, because a lot of clients that come to me, they'll come to my home or I'll see them at the events that I host. But I want to have a space so that I can, start taking more clients and really just, just expanding. So that's my
I
goal.
love it. Yeah, I
Mhm.
love it. It sounds like I said, it was all divinely
Yeah.
orchestrated, like your ancestors had your back in
Oh.
that. And yeah, I think it's definitely a need for that. I love the fact that you're trying to open up a dedicated space to
Mhm.
that. And I know that when I was a massage therapist, I was a mobile massage therapist, but I also rented out a space.
Mhm.
It was just like a room. So just, keep that in mind too before
Yes.
you get to the building. You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
saying? You could
Yeah.
still be doing it and not having people in your house. I get that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear about that, and I'm glad to hear what you're doing with that.
Thank
Because
you.
you kind of opened up my eyes a lot too, because I've had hypnosis done before, but I've never had hypnotherapy.
Mhm.
And like I said, I used to be a massage therapist, so I get it. Some people would come for a massage, and
Mhm.
then they don't get the full benefit of it, but some people would come pretty regularly, like once a month, every 2 weeks, and the same thing would start to happen to them. They would have these changes happen in them because I was working more on the energy side of things.
Right.
So
Yes.
hitting meridian points and all of that, then the way that their body felt, the way that they thought, and they started going up and branching off on their little journey and stuff.
Mhm.
So very important stuff, and I'm loving the fact that we're having more of us in these spaces. And
Mhm.
I always like to ask people, like, that do hypnotherapy, like, what types of experiences have some of your clients had? Like, have you noticed the changes and things like that?
So my first client, she was actually coming out of a narcissistic abuse relationship. And like I said, when you start working in your gifts, when you start moving toward that north node, working in your purpose, you start attracting the people that you're here to help, And so her first experience, she was kind of she wasn't really afraid of hypnosis or anything, but like I said, I like to talk to people, let them know what you're about to get into. But once I got down to the point of her situation, as far as she was having an issue with letting this person go, and when she started giving me the examples of the things he was doing to her, I could literally almost finish her sentence, because they all have the same pattern.
They do.
They all have the same pattern, all of them. And that's why I told them, it's an energy. They're an entity that is
They
here.
are. You know what they
Yeah,
are. And
they're.
I honestly don't think that there is any healing for them.
I don't think so, because I will say this. I want to believe that there is, because that's that empathy in me,
Right.
but I don't know if it
I don't
is.
think that they're capable. I think they're
I don't think
lacking
so.
something, that ability to be
Mhm.
empathic and give a damn about anybody
Right.
else. Like it's
Absolutely.
missing in them.
Yeah, it's missing. It really is. And to be have been raised by one, they all it doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman, they all have the same patterns. And so when I talk to her on a spiritual level about, okay, this is what's happening to you energetically, spiritually, because like I had to explain to her, everything happens in the spirit realm first, and then it manifests into the physical. And I said, you
Yes.
don't understand how gifted you are. These entities come into your life to actually stunt your growth,
That's
to
right.
to suck your energy, because you are so
Literally.
literally, they're energy vampires in the physical flesh, and they're here to stop you on your purpose, And she was very highly spiritually gifted. She was from Jamaica, so she was very, she understood spirituality, but that person was sucking the life out of her. So when we did her hypnosis session for the first time, she cried. That was the first thing, and she couldn't get out of her head. That's always the first thing with us when you start going into when your brain starts to go into that theta state. You're fighting. It's like your higher self, and I'm explaining what's happening to her, because you can tell by the eyes. When you close your eyes, you can kind of tell your higher self and that lower self, your ego, is fighting, because what are you doing? You're trying to calm my mind. What are you doing? This is different. But she cried. I've had a few patients that have cried, um, or they would say their bodies go numb, and not numb in a bad way to where you just can't move. But some people have said that. But your sensories are you're actually, and it's so sad, because I realize how much Black women have not been able to rest,
Yes.
to just see us let go, and
Mhm.
just I want to cry sometimes, when I'm just finally seeing a person just sink into the floor and literally just get that tension off of them. They'll cry. Sometimes their hands will tingle. You're just feeling the things that you really should be feeling anyway, but you're so out of your body and you're living outside of your body that you don't realize that you're outside of your body until you get into hypnosis, and it
Mm.
literally puts you back in your body. So, all people have different experiences, but those are just some of the things that I've seen.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you talked about Black women just not being able to let go fully and just
Mhm.
release. And it
Yeah,
and I think a lot of it has to do with safety. We got
it
to feel
is.
safe
Mm-hmm.
enough to do that. And
Yeah,
for a lot of us, we just really haven't. We always got to have our guard up
always.
in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to have our guard up. So that's beautiful that you're allowing and holding that space for them
Mm-hmm.
to be able to experience that and to remember, because I think innately that's what it's all about, us coming back to and remembering that we're spirit. There's a whole universe
Yes.
inside of us, our
Yes,
own little universe within universes.
absolutely.
And you're helping them to tap into that to be able to reprogram and rewrite the story continuing
Yes.
forward. So I love it. I love
Thank,
that. I love it.
thank you. Thank,
I'm proud of you.
thank
And
you.
and it was worth it. That's what I tell people too. When we have to go through that hard healing sometimes and it's like, why is this happening to me? Like, and
Yes.
there's so much greater purpose behind it.
Yes. Yes.
And it
I
seems
want
like
to add something to that, what you just said.
yeah.
When you said about the nervous system, I made a post on Facebook the other day saying how your nervous system is your universe. And if your nervous system is off whack and out of control, your reality is as well. And
Mhm.
another thing that I found in a lot of the women that I've talked to, they all had an issue with their thyroid. A lot of us have issues with our thyroid before we realize something else is going on, because your thyroid is like your thermostat to your nervous system.
Mm.
And if that is off balance, and a lot of us have had ours removed. It was a
Mhm.
target on that, okay?
Yep. I
Because
remember that.
yeah, they want to remove your thyroid, and they almost took mine. But I really was my spirit was always in control of things that I didn't realize. I didn't let them take mine out, but I did have like a radiation done when mine was out of whack. But I wouldn't let them take it out, and now it's working on its own. It
Yeah.
just, if you change the way that we think about things, like I said, the reprogramming, getting back in tune with your nervous system and just slowing it down, everything changes. Everything in your body functions totally different. So,
It's so true. It's so
mhm,
true. And I love how you talked about everything starts in the spirit realm
mhm,
before the physical. So that in itself, that powerful statement states that we can create our reality.
yes,
If we're living in a reality and it's like, what the hell is this? I wouldn't have picked this, then that means that's somebody else's program.
absolutely.
That's a program, a survival program that we've learned to
Mhm.
become acclimated to, but we do have the power to with certain tools, and there's people out here like yourself doing the work and all kinds of other people that have been on the podcast in different ways. So that's why I do this, so that people
Yes,
know that you don't have to be in survival mode.
mhm,
You don't have to live like that. And that's
mhm,
not what the life is for. So
absolutely.
I love that. So I want to go back to the narcissist
Okay,
because
let's go. Let's
because I
go.
know a lot of people want to talk about that. And sometimes I'll go down the rabbit hole on
Oh, let's
Instagram
go.
and TikTok watching them videos, and like you said, the pattern is the same. I'm
The
like,
pattern is the same.
yes. So tell me
Mhm.
about your experience with that, and I know you're out of that now. So
Right.
tell us the experience and how you got the hell up out of there.
Uh, so I met this entity at a low frequency place. Now, when you know what you know,
Yeah.
being desperate, wanting someone, and you'll
Mhm.
attract that, because that's what obviously my soul contract was. I needed to go through that experience to wake me up. Okay, again, yeah, I knew. Well, I didn't know anything about narcissistic abuse. None of us, I don't think, really knew, but we knew. We know certain things. But again, I had experience with my mother. And um, I didn't know that until, again, after I went to see my hypnotherapist. But with him, like I said, I met him, and we were in this relationship. I will add, he was part of a high society, secret society, if you know what I'm saying. He was
Yep.
a he was a Mason.
Mm-hmm.
He was high ranking. At that time, I didn't realize that meant anything until I got out of the situation and I realized I was laying with a warlock. I was really with,
Literally,
I
girl.
was living and trying to combine my life with an entity that was really ciphering me. I don't even look the same as I did when I was with him. I was sick all the time. Like I said, every depressed, anxiety, thyroid issue, just all off whack. My life was always, it would go good because, they come in and out your life. They're coming in and out, in and
Yes.
out. And I would allow him to come in and out because I loved him. I wanted to be with him. I saw the good in him. He saw what he saw in me, and it wasn't real. It was all really a facade. It was a facade.
A
He wasn't
whole
really
damn
who he.
a whole show, like
It
a
was a
whole
whole show. And I dealt with this for 11 years. And
wow.
my mom could read him real good. I couldn't understand why she could read him so good because she could tell me things that he was doing to me. She used to tell me, stop being his doormat. But when I tell you I was so desperate for love, I wanted love, because I didn't really have that as my foundation. I wanted to create this life that I never had, but really I needed to love myself first. I needed to learn how to love me first, but I never saw that. I never really felt that with my parents. My mom was a teenage mom. My dad wasn't really in my life. And those two things are very significant when you start attracting these people because it begins with your issues. I had abandonment issues. I felt unworthy. I was a people pleaser. I wanted to please my mother. I wanted to please my dad. I became the good girl, as they say. I became the good girl, and the good girl energy. Yeah, it sounds good, but the good girl role will get you killed out here.
It
So
will.
I had to shed that. But like I said, we dated for 11 years. We got into the point where we were going to get engaged, and it was my spirit, it was my ancestors, they were protecting me. and
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, right, like I said, COVID hit, and that was the first time ever that I was not able to really be around him because the world shut down and they were telling us to stay home. And I used to say, oh my God, I really feel like God has really shut the world down for me, because that was the first time I was able to rest, not worry about bills. And I did not have the time to deal with him because I was really scared at the time. And during that time, spirit started working on me. And one day, loud and clear, spirit said, you're going to have to leave him alone or you're going to die. It scared me so bad. And I knew I wasn't crazy. And I said, show me how to leave him, because I couldn't leave him. They have such a hold on you that those what they say, soul ties.
Mhm.
I was so soul tied to this man, and he would do certain things to me, different rituals to me that I didn't realize at that time, that after being out of it you realize, they really study you. He would stalk me, I didn't know this though at the time. He was doing all these crazy things to me, but when spirit said I had to let him go, I was like, just show me how to let him go. And when I asked to be released, that's when I really felt, my spirit kicking in. Like I said, COVID really turned me around. It really turned me around, and I was able to start breaking free of him. And so even after that happened, and when we could start seeing each other back in person again, when he would come around, I would notice certain things that he would say that I didn't notice before. And one day we were outside talking about something. I said, "You're jealous hearted." And he said something to me. He was like, because I was doing really good at that time. Because anytime he would leave my life, job would go good, money would be flowing, everything. Losing weight, I'm doing things, and he would see that light coming out, and he would come right back and attach to it. And when I tell you I lose my job every time, everything would start falling apart. And my son even said, he was like, Mom, you do better when you're alone. And he was maybe a senior in high school then. And I didn't really want it to hear that, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
looking back, he could see. But I start seeing the mask. And one day I pulled the mask off of him, and I could blatantly see he wasn't who I thought. And then spirit just told me one day, you need to block him and don't talk to him no more. And I was scared. I didn't know what my life was going to be like. And one day it hit me, because all this stuff started coming to light. It was like the mask fell off. I could see all the things, all the tricks, all the things he had put me through. And so I blocked him. I went no contact, and now it's going on 4 years.
Oh,
And
man.
I never looked back. I seen him for the first time last year on my birthday. And it was kind of creepy, because I do think that he still watches me, and because they typically do, after you've discarded them, they will watch you on social media and do all of those things. So I always try to shine even brighter, because if he is watching, you didn't stop me, you know.
That's right.
But I haven't seen him since then, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful. I used to be upset and used to want bad things to happen to him, but then I realized
Right.
I had to go through that. So now I appreciate what happened to me. So
I love
that's
it.
it.
Yeah, that's a powerful story and it's real, because there's women and men out there that are going through this right now. And like
Mhm.
you said, once you've been in it so long, you don't know how to get out of it. And you're telling them there's a way out. And your ancestors were protecting you then and they protected you now. So
They
no matter
are.
he can watch if he want to watch. It's
Right,
okay. You
right.
highly protected. He know that. He can't come back.
Absolutely.
You're much stronger, you're much different than you
Yes.
were when you were with him and he knows that too. So I love that. I only had one experience with a narcissist and it was brief, like I was saying
Mm-hmm.
before this. And this was kind of recent. This was 23, I think, from like
Mm-hmm.
20, maybe mid 22 to almost 24.
Mm-hmm.
And it was what you were describing. He created this whole other reality of who he was. He was absolutely not that person at all. But I had the red flags and the
Mm-hmm.
warning signs, and my ancestors were very vocal. Usually they
Very.
don't get up in my business like that. They'll just, let me do what I do and then,
Mhm.
let me kind of learn the lesson. But they were adamant about this person you need to get away from.
Yes.
And it was like you were saying about the entity. I definitely I could see, I was like, this is not something attaches to you
Mm-hmm.
and controls you and like it hosts and lives in you. Like this is
Yes.
not like a walk in. This is something that takes an identity. You
Yes.
take this identity, and he would be so just cruel, some of the things he said like in the beginning. And I remember one time he did something that was so low and it made me feel like I felt when I was like 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
12. I was like, damn, I haven't felt this low
Mm-hmm.
since since I was look. I mean,
Yeah.
he really took me there and I was like, oh my God, I felt so belittled. And I knew then I was like, you need to get away from this guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's like I don't put up with that.
Right.
I've been by myself. I'll be by myself. But like you were saying, there was some sort of a hook, and he kind of had control at the time. I was kind of getting my life back together, like a different phase of my life, and rebuilding again. And so he had a lot of power and control. And then of course
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he would have no recollection and no memory of some of the stuff he did. That's how I knew. I was like, something else is controlling you. And
Yeah.
my
They do
ancestors were,
that.
yeah,
They really do that. But a lot of times they know what they're doing, and
yeah,
they're actually really embarrassed of themselves,
yes,
because they harp their egos are very, very,
yes.
very
He was an
easy.
egomaniac.
But they're so easy to bruise. And see, I
They
didn't
are.
realize that he presented as a very comfortable masculine man.
Hmm.
But again, what I thought masculinity was a toxic. It was toxic masculinity is what he presented. But that's what I thought it was. And the crazy part is that I was married. My husband was a narcissist, okay, and he was my high school sweetheart and all of this, and everything. We had a child together, and what will happen too is that I got presented with my first one. And so I was used to a certain type of behavior. I was used to somebody belittling me. I was used to somebody telling me, you're not good enough for this. So when I got with him, I figured, okay, well, he's not that bad, because at least he's not doing this. But he was doing something even worse,
Yeah.
when you really look at it. But I was really damaged. And the universe will bring you all these different people to show you. I'm gonna bring it to you on a mild scale. My ex-husband was a mild scale of narcissist.
Hmm.
Then I had another guy that I dated, and his level of narcissism went up. Then I had one other guy dated. His narcissism went up. And then I got the big kahuna, this last one here.
They was like, if you don't get this one, it's gonna
If
get
you
real
don't
bad.
get this one, and that's when Spirit said, if you don't leave him alone, you're gonna die. And when I did what I was told to do, and I look back, I see where he would have either killed me, himself, or I was gonna get really, really sick, because the way that I was going when I actually had that mental breakdown, had I been with him, it would have come much sooner. I wouldn't have been able to make it. He would have took me out. I would have died. I see it, I
Yeah.
see it. And in my head, I I wanted to, because I
Yeah,
was
that's what I was
really
thinking. I was
tired.
thinking he would have worn you down to the point where you wanted to take your own
Yeah,
life.
he was.
That's
He was on.
that would have. And somebody, I was watching a video and they were talking about narcissists, and they were like, narcissists don't pull the rug all at once. They pull thread by thread by
Yes.
thread by
Yeah.
thread until you have nothing.
Nothing.
Until you until you feel like you don't have no power, nothing to,
Absolutely.
fight back with. And so I'm so glad you got out of that. And at
Me
least you was
too.
obedient to your ancestors, because some people would just
Listen,
still.
it was so loud, it scared me, because
Yeah.
as a kid, I've always had spiritual gifts,
Hmm.
but when you get in that survival mode, I remember just going to sleep to them because I thought, oh, this can't be real, because my life is this, but this is what spirit is showing me. I had this dream that I always would come into my mind, well, into my dreams. If I dream, you know, I can have dreams and it'd be clear messages for me, And as a kid, my mom used to say, "Look, it was so real." When I was small, it would scare me so bad. She would say, "Look, the next time you have one, just tell me." I could feel when someone was gonna pass away. I could feel when, you know, my mom was going to have an accident. But it was all traumatic things that I could feel, because I
Yeah.
was always seeing bad things at that time. And so it scared me so, because I never had a good experience with it, to I just suppressed it. And that suppression is also, I think, a part of why I suffered with anxiety and
Hmm.
depression as well, but
Good point. Yeah.
it's so real, and like I said, once I heard that message, it was, I couldn't deny it anymore. I couldn't deny
Yeah.
it. I couldn't, when they told me to hear you start getting on TikTok and start speaking, because they wanted me to work on speaking. And I never liked speaking. I never liked being in front of people. I was always in the background, and I did what I needed to do, but I don't want to talk about this stuff. I don't, that's what I thought, until I got transformed, so now,
To hypnotherapy. Yeah.
yeah.
But you know what? I'm happy for you. And this is, I love the healing journey. I do. And I tell everybody that, people want to get to the powerful stuff on the other end. Well, get ready for some heavy ass healing, like
Ooh.
whatever that means for you. And so, but it's so worth it.
It
It's so
is.
worth it to not have to live that way. And then that experience for a healer is necessary, I think, because people going to be coming to you
Yeah.
that are in pain,
Yeah.
in a variety of different ways, and they don't know how to get out of it. And
Mhm.
you can be, the catalyst for somebody else's growth.
Absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
and that's like that's our contract.
It
That's
is.
in
I
our
mean,
contract.
that's why my life wasn't working out, because I wasn't doing what I did what I had to do, but I literally saw where my spirit guides were like, okay, now you're gonna do what you're supposed to do, your
Yep.
mission work. And I used to always be, what's my purpose? I have kids, I got
Yes.
a job, but all my other family, they had these other things that they did outside of
Yeah,
their
yeah.
job. And I would ask so much. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I've sold jewelry. I've done these things. I've done all, and I liked it, but it's still, I wasn't fulfilled. And then, like I said, COVID hit,
Yep.
and man, I didn't know that all of this was going to lead to this. I didn't know that I would be talking to people about this. I tell everybody all the time, your test, it ends up being your testimony, which turns into
Hmm.
your mission, that puts you in the right mode, in the north node, where you're supposed to be headed toward in this age that we're in. You have
Yes.
to be in alignment with that. Everybody won't get it, but I'm just glad that, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing so that I can do what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's right. And my
And we're
ancestors
doing
told me to do it too. They was like, do a podcast. I was like, for what? I was like, that's the where the money at? Like,
right. What the
it's
money
like,
at?
I was like, they like, you're not gonna need it in this 5D, like, but yeah, I love that because I think about half the people I have on the podcast, half of them have been on the journey for a while,
Mm-hmm.
myself included, but I really didn't kick in the gear until 22.
Mm-hmm.
But it started, I was doing some behind the scenes stuff around the pandemic time.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
the other half is the pandemic, something shook them, like they tapped into purpose. And then you
Yes.
got the other ones that we're reaching out to that are just waking up. That's like, hey, what? And then you see, like, okay, I had to go through that to be ready for this, like,
It.
because and we made that contract, and I
Yeah.
love that because I say this is an exciting time to be on the planet. This is an
I have a
exciting
friend.
life to choose.
I said, what were we? It's a friend that I talk to. We talk about, because see, I read the spirit through world happenings and events,
Yeah,
and I can tell what's happening
hell
spiritually.
yeah.
And I said, what were we thinking when we decided to come down here, have these children, and go through this at this time? I said, what
Yes,
a time to be alive.
it
But
is.
I also like to tell people, this spiritual journey, I'm smiling today, but I could be crying tomorrow, because you're
That's right.
always elevating. You're
Yes,
always getting some type of, oh my God, epiphany to heal you. And then you have to really mourn each version of yourself that, you start to get rid of. I just went through
yes,
another ego death 2 weeks ago. And
yeah,
it really took me down because I'm like, wow, I didn't, once you mourn it and you understand it, you accept
yes.
it, you go through all the stages of it, then it's like, okay, I get it. And now I'm gonna move on. I went on
Yep.
vacation last week. Well, I just got back
Hmm.
when did I get back? Wednesday. And I was able to go to Tulum and go to these healing
Nice.
springs, and I needed it. I needed that
Yes,
time to reset, and now I'm back. I'm back on it. So I'm
yes.
looking to do some great things going forward. But it's this journey is not easy, but it's
Mm,
so worth it. I don't
it
like
is.
people to think that it's bells and whistles, because you're really de you're reprogramming things that are ancestral. It's real ancestral. You're doing this for your
Yes,
grandmothers that, had to just say this is who they were to be able to survive. And now you're the person out of the lineage that they want to make sure that the lineage keeps going into the
that's
new
right.
ages. So when I was saying, what was I supposed to be doing? I was like, I didn't know I was supposed to be doing this. Like,
Same.
whoa.
The same. And I remember wanting to be doing more, I think about like 10 years ago. And I would be like, I'm ready. I've done all this work. I'm ready. And I would always get, you're not ready. It's not time. It's not time. And I would be so defeated. But I still had a lot of healing work of my own to do too. But
Correct.
then I remember when they finally was like, okay, you ready. Get
Mhm.
on out there. And that is like, some people will tell you, like, you think that you are a novice in this, like, until 5 years, you still a baby. Like,
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
years, you
You're a
still a
baby.
baby,
It's
because
something
there's
new
so
every day.
much.
It's so much. And I had to make sure that, being the Virgo that I am, to not try to overdo it.
Yes.
Because again, I'm coming out of survival mode. I'm coming
Mm,
out of doing everything you needed to do to survive. I didn't want to start, because again, I didn't know I was going to be teaching and helping, but I knew, because of the things I had suppressed as a kid, that it's too much to know. So enjoy the
yes.
journey, and just enjoy the journey and learn to be in the moment. So those days that
Yes.
I do start going into the future and I get into that anxiety, I have to get it back here in the moment of now, because it's nothing that I can do. My power is in the now,
It's in the now.
and so once I start learning that and just keeping myself in the now, I enjoy the ride a lot more, because I can't worry about trying to know everything. So when I can tell when I'm supposed to be sitting and learning and still working on myself, and then I can tell when I'm supposed to step out and do this. And I don't want to ever jump out too early, because I take it real serious when I start speaking. This is the age we're in, at the age of truth and knowing, the righteous
Mm,
people are now starting to rule. We have to step up. We're the new ancestors. I tell people all the
yep.
time, we're the new elders. And
Yep.
our people need truth, but we got to give it to them And I take that very serious. I don't ever want to be a person who's leading an ego, ever. So
Absolutely.
I sit down if I need
Good.
to sit down, and I rest when I need to rest, and I don't try to overdo it. So that I just always keep that in mind, because like I said, I never want to be doing things because for clout or anything. Like,
Right.
this is all pure, authentic me. So
Yep. You know what? And I love it. I'm glad you brought that point out about being in the present, because
mhm.
this is where we have the power to manifest. Like, you can't
Right,
manifest that back there or over
right.
there already. Like, you got to stay so rooted to what's happening now, because things can shift minute to
Mhm.
minute, like, so that's very important. And then I like you talking about the fact that you're doing this from, your ancestors are guiding you, your spirit
Mhm.
is guiding you, your intuition is guiding you. Who you truly are is what is you're presenting. And
Mhm.
that's what we're seeing a lot of. A lot of people are craving that, because
Yeah.
people are really looking for stuff. They like, okay, well, how do I get out of this, and then I'm seeing a shift between, social media, or at least my timeline anyways,
Mhm.
is showing more people like what you just described, with not necessarily a whole bunch of followers and stuff. That's
Mhm.
not what it's about. What's the
Mhm.
message? Where is the place coming? Where is it coming from? And I can
Absolutely.
tell. And I love the people I have on my podcast, because it's like they're doing this work.
Yeah.
Simple as that. They're not
As
just
simple as
posting
that.
videos out there and talking about stuff. They're literally behind the scenes. May not have a lot of followers, but they're holding
Mhm.
classes and they're doing
Absolutely.
sessions, and they're doing what it is that we're supposed to be doing. Boots on the
Absolutely.
ground. We the
Boots on the
soldiers out
ground.
here doing
Yes.
this work. And then we
Yes.
just throw a video out there so somebody can find us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how it should be. I love that. So, you talked a lot about a lot of great stuff. So, I want to talk a little bit about ancestral veneration, because
Okay.
that's my jam. So, tell me
All
what
right.
that's like for you, and like, how do you venerate your ancestors?
So, I have an altar. I have two altars in my home, but this is the crazy part. Before I even started doing ancestor veneration, I was doing it already and just didn't
Yep.
know it. But I have an altar. I light a candle every day, and on Saturday, I go outside and I pour libations and I read out this thing that I have, and I call every ancestor that I know that I had an encounter with, and I call out their names, and just, I commune with them that way. Um, I'm going to get deeper into it, but again, this is just what I've learned thus far that has been shown to me. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I do it every Saturday because my grandmother was what they would call back then a root worker, just to find out she was a priestess, root worker, whatever you want to call it. But as a girl, and this is on my dad's side, and I would go, spend the night with her. She used to, all these people would always come to her house on Saturday. And they would come, and she'd take them in the back, and she'd give them something. And, me and my brother saw a lot of things, but that was the only day that people came to her house was Saturday. So from there, I always do my venerations on Saturday, even though I venerate them every day. I
Of
burn
course.
ancestral money for them and all of those things. I'm getting more comfortable with it. Again, I'm still not an expert, but I know that I know what I'm doing right now is with a good intent, and it's what it is right now. So that's all I'm doing right now. But I really do want to get more deeper into it. I see other people that I follow that
I
really
think
are
what you're
deep.
doing is amazing. And I think they think that too. I
Yeah,
think, and I'm glad you said what you do, because just doing anything, your ancestors are like, wow,
right, right,
especially in
right.
these days. And then you're creating rituals that are specific to your bloodline ancestry.
Absolutely
That's what I tell people all the time. It's not going to look like what it looks like necessarily for other people
correct.
um, on Instagram and all these other places,
Mhm.
so you're doing what your grandmama did,
Yeah, literally, literally. Yeah.
you're working with, you're working outside and indoors. You're
Hmm.
keeping that conscious connection and that portal and that gateway open so that your ancestors can assist you, and it shows in your
Yes.
life,
Yeah, I
you
can
know.
feel them. I can feel them.
Yeah,
Even when I went to Tulum, I took an offering. If I go anywhere to water, I love water.
me too.
But I'm an earth sign, but I get it more now. I get it now even more. But I always try to respect other areas when I go into these different places, because I can tell the difference in the energy where I am, and so I want to always be respectful as well, because I know that my ancestors are protecting me, and because our history is so dismantled, we don't really know exactly where we are on the planet. That's one thing. And so I really like to respect other people's area, and I can feel when I do that, if I give offerings or if I do things like that, they kind of support me too, and they'll
Mhm.
give me little gifts. When I was in Tulum, a little feather was sitting right there standing up for me when I left we went to the Mayan ruins when we were there, and I had
Oh,
been
that's
studying
amazing.
about that. And it was, you could just feel, you could feel, you could just feel the spirit there. You could feel, and it wasn't a bad spirit. It just, you could feel that something had
Strong
happened there.
presence. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Like, yeah.
It was
That's
beautiful though.
beautiful.
But I love ancestor veneration. I like to try. I have been getting a little bit more vocal, because, like I tell people, you guys, we are in a spiritual warfare, whether you
Mhm.
believe it or not. And I know that if you are in the Christian faith, they've made our ancestor practices demonic, and you're giving, you're honoring Jesus if that's who you believe in. You're venerating Jesus, you're venerating ancestors. You just don't know that you're doing that. And I try to, explain to them what you're doing, what, telling you this and that. But a lot of times, again, we do venerate our ancestors. We just do it unknowingly.
Yes.
And I just want to just continue to get more in that practice. I'm growing, but
Yeah.
they'll tell me when it's something I need to do more, I'll do it. But right now, this is what I do. And that's pretty much what I do for now.
I think that's venerating your
Yeah.
ancestors.
Yeah.
That's between you and your ancestors. It really
Absolutely.
is,
Absolutely.
and y'all family. That's y'all
Yeah,
family business. So
absolutely.
I think that's amazing. And then on top of that, like I said, they're assisting you. You're
Yeah.
making it easier for them to assist you. And
Mhm.
I truly believe I've never had anything given to me too soon,
Right.
that I wasn't ready for. It's nothing like
Correct.
that. I think and I'm glad you said that, because there is a lot of fear surrounding
Mm.
our beliefs and practices. But then when we think about it, like you said, our grandmama was doing it. This is not that far down the line, y'all.
Right. Let your grandmama say, "Baby, I had a dream last night."
Exactly.
You gonna do exactly.
Especially all these black folks out here playing these numbers. Okay.
I, thank you.
They got a whole
Spades,
number dream book. Okay.
spades. Look, the game spades. While people get
Yes.
killed at spades, y'all
People
are
just
doing
need to
nothing but
remember.
numerology. It's just games.
Just
I
all
love to
kinds of little
connect it.
things, the way that just the little superstitions that we used to have all the time that we were
Yeah.
connected to. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of remembering. And when people
Yes.
start to open up that gateway of asking questions about their family, what was they like,
Mhm.
um, I love talking to my grandmother. She was telling me about my Aunt Patsy. She's like, "Oh, Aunt Patsy used to always say," and I remember that too as a little girl. She would be like, "I was Nefertiti in another life." And they
Yeah.
they was like, she believed in past lives and
Yeah.
reincarnation and this, and she always had dreams about this.
Mhm.
And they just start remembering this
Yeah.
stuff. And then
Yeah.
we realize that, hey, wait a minute, this is us. This is who we've
This is
always
it.
been. That
Mhm.
other story, is what was given to us. And even
Mhm.
still, we took and made something out of that too. So
You just
that's
can't
what we
stop
do.
us,
We're
you know?
highly spiritual rooted people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's good though. I love that. And I love that that you're connected to your ancestors. I love to
Mhm.
see people get connected to their ancestors, but you definitely already are, and you're on your way doing your thing, and it shows in the work that you're doing and how you're able to help other people. So awesome, awesome. I think I got like one last question. I think we kind of covered it a little bit because we covered everything. So, you are well versed in a lot of different mind, body, spirit practices. So, just tell me some of your favorite ones, or maybe some that you refer to your clients and things like that, or suggest, I should say.
Okay. Um, so the first thing, like I said, is really doing that shadow work. That's my first thing, because you have to get to the root. So really talking to someone, the hypnosis, all of those two things go together for me. But the other thing is, before that, is people really getting to know what their soul contract is, pulling that birth chart.
Mm.
I went to birth chart school to learn about it, because again, we, as you know, our culture, we always talked in zodiacs. Okay,
Yep.
what's your sign? Especially back in the 80s, what's your sign? We talked energy all the time, and people don't realize, you know, when you're born and you get that number and they put what time you came into the earth, you know,
Yep.
that's really tracking the stars. When you can learn your birth chart to kind of see the things, because astrology works, you know, when astrology works, I'll show people in real time, okay, this is what you see because this planet and this planet is doing this, you know, so this is why you have all of this. I always try to recommend that, you know, get your birth chart pulled, you know, so that is like your roadmap to your life, and it can kind of tell you where you came from and what you should be going towards, you know, and I think that that also helps, you know. But those are my main three, and really just learning how to live in the now, you know, through hypnosis, learning how to calm that nervous system down. You know, before you can do anything, you got to know who you are before you can really just start working on these things, you know. So those are my top three right there that I
Yeah.
really like to focus on. I can read birth charts, but that's not my expertise. I know
Right.
about them, but I have someone that I can recommend people to. But you know, I know the basics. I know what I need to know, you know, but those are the main things. And if you don't do birth charts, you know, if you don't, still you need to get some help as far as speaking to a hypnotherapist, speaking to a counselor, and going really deep to the root. And we're going to see in the oh, sound frequency is another thing too. I
Ooh,
forgot to
yes.
say.
Good one.
That's another thing. I'm really big on what I'm listening to these days. Certain frequencies of music, I can't even. It doesn't even
Right.
resonate with me anymore. So I do sound bowls. I also add sound bowls to my hypnotherapy sessions, especially if you are coming to me and you're, you know, in that fight or flight. I'll use the root chakra sound bowl to just kind of help and assist in some of my sessions, because I know your cells are distorted. I know you are distorted because you don't even know, you know, this is your first time, you know, and I'll teach people about that. But hypnosis, sound therapy, that birth chart, those are my top three right there.
I love it. Yeah, and that's a nice, well-rounded uh spectrum there because and I always say meditation first. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
getting in the present. Meditation is going to help you with the
Mm-hmm.
present, getting in the present. If you got so much chatter going on and you like, oh, I can't sit still, meditation will help you with that. Then you'll start to receive the messages
Absolutely.
and you know
Absolutely.
what's specific for you. You'll start to strengthen your intuition. All sorts of amazing things come
Mhm.
out of that. The
Absolutely.
sound healing is really good because the frequencies and you just your body and your cells respond to that like automatically
Mm-hmm.
without your permission. Like it's like
Without,
just it
yeah.
just begins to realign stuff. So like even if without you don't get a chance to get in the way of that. I love that too. And then
Yes.
the birth chart, that's a really good one. That's one I forget about because that's really good because everybody's got different strengths. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's some stuff like astrology is not really my thing either. It never really was. I mean,
Right.
I like little stuff I like to know. Now my youngest daughter, that's her jam. Like she's
Mm-hmm.
always in the stars and the moon telling me what's going on because some people resonate more with certain things. Some people may
Correct.
resonate more with numbers. Some people may resonate more with different types of divination, some people crystals. And that's the beautiful part of the journey is like you said, getting to know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because we all special. That's the
Yeah.
beautiful part about it. Like,
We
you
just,
know,
yeah.
you're not more special because you're a hypnotherapist. I'm not more special because I'm an energy healer. You know,
Right.
it's like we all need everybody, all hands on deck
Absolutely.
right now.
All hands on deck. We all have our special gifts. And you know, the crazy part is that we literally, they really tricked us to being that other person, you know, that you
Yes.
have to mourn, and that really
People
wasn't
walk
who
around
you
here being
were.
damn NPCs.
Yeah, like I know it's more to this. I did everything the American dream told me to do, which is a
Exactly.
nightmare, and I'm not fulfilled, you know, because that wasn't your true authentic self. That's
And
not
you
who
know
you
what?
were.
And the pandemic really brought that to light
It
for a
did. I'm
lot of
so
people
grateful for
because
that.
people were getting rest, they were
Yes.
eating, they were thinking, why did I ever stop writing? Why did I stop crocheting? I used to
Yeah.
like to do this. They were able to slow down. And it's like, wait a minute, whose life is this? Like, I
Right.
didn't pick this. Like,
Yeah. I was
and that's when they
painting
was like, everybody
outside.
get your ass back to work.
Yeah. And it hasn't worked. And I told
Yeah,
somebody,
the egg had already been cracked.
I said the pandemic, because I got this premonition right before, but it started getting really, 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 really clear. And it would say, it would come in my spirit, we're about to write a new Bible. And I was like, write a new
Yeah, they
Bible?
done took so many books out.
But I just didn't understand why it was coming to me like that. And then when the pandemic hit, and now we're in 2026, I see that, and technically, I think it just was saying Bible because that was really the only thing I could reference.
Hmm.
We're really coming into the new age. That's
Yes.
what it was telling me. You're coming into a new age, and you're writing a new story. So we're all writing our new stories to our new life that we were supposed to be doing before we got hijacked, and start writing
Yes.
that story. So
6,000 years is up, y'all,
it's,
and I'm loving it. And I'm like
I
just
love it.
watching it happen.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
just so many things, like you said, you watching the news. I think Trump said something about, the only people who can have citizenship in the U.S. is birthright citizenship is, and I'm like, a lot of people don't even
They don't
realize
even
that up until
realize that.
2025, we were not considered as citizens on our own damn land. People who wanted to uphold white supremacy and white privilege for so long, they were like, oh, yeah, we're all one. But hell, it's 2025 and he just now giving us our land back is what's really
Right.
going on. So
That's
we
really
know
what's
what it
going
is.
on. We know what it is. And I'm
We know
like,
what it is that we're giving, and somebody else. There's just so much going on. Like
it's
we
so
could go down
much.
a rabbit hole. The
I
the
know.
guy I had on the podcast before you, girl, make sure you listen to that episode
Okay.
because he was going in.
Oh,
Shaman True Love. Yeah. So it has been a true honor to have you on here,
thank
Southern
you.
Goddess. I'm glad I
I'm
got a chance
so
to get to know you.
grateful.
Girl, you talk about I don't like to talk. Girl, you did this thing like your
Thank
podcast is up next for you. I'm just
thank
saying, like,
you. Thank
yeah, you were
you.
dropping gems for my audience, and I love that. So tell us how we can find you. Tell us you told us at the beginning, but go ahead and tell us again,
Okay.
like the work that you're doing and how you're helping your clients.
Okay, so you can you can follow me on you can find me on TikTok under Southern Goddess underscore 77. You can also follow me on Instagram with that same name. I do have a Inward Journey Instagram page, and it's Inward Journey LLC. That's my practice page. You can find me on Instagram there, and also I have a YouTube channel, and it's for Inward Journey, and you can follow me on YouTube. I don't have a lot of content yet on my Inward Journey because I'm trying to rebrand. So I got some new things coming out, and I'm just rebranding. I'm really getting positioned. But go ahead and follow me there, and you can keep in touch that way.
Awesome. Okay. And y'all know I'll have all of the information down in the description. So make sure you follow Southern Goddess. She is dropping gems. And make sure you book your hypnotherapy appointment so y'all can start to reprogram the program and
Yes,
start
yes.
living in purpose and, mind, body, spirit integration. That's what we do over here. So
Yes.
thank you so much again.
Thank you
And
for having
that
me.
is it. You are welcome.
Thank
Until the next
you.
episode, y'all. Peace.